All right, guys, thanks again for joining us. This is Catch Pajamas.
And this is Pain User.
And we are back for another IPL Season 2 Qualifier Number 3 Round of 128 matchup between vileHasHe here in the top right-hand corner. Zelnaga Caverns, he is our red Terran player. His opponent down here in the bottom left-hand corner is Complexity's Cruncher, spawning as our orange Protoss player. Now, Hash, kind of the champion of the ladder, has started to get into more events like this. Really excited to see him start to become a more of a tournament player. And Cruncher, of course, has been kind of the hot-button North American Protoss for a little while, especially after his victory against Idra in TSL 3.
Yeah, Cruncher is a very good Protoss player. That's what really put him on the map. I know Idra doesn't respect him very much, but he is a pretty good player. And you can't fault him for playing to win. Like, at the end of the day, that's what everybody's playing to do. So, I mean, cheesy players who can also play a straight-up game and do pretty well, you can't really fault them for that. I think it's kind of a hallmark of a good player to be able to cheese and just to be able to play a straight up macro game as well. So I know he gets a lot of flack for it, but it works. So
yeah, absolutely. Hey, you do what you got to. You know, if it comes down and you have a, you know, it's almost like back at the DreamHack Invitational when MC was playing White Rod in the finals, and White Rod did the same build 5 times in a row, and MC says, you may have called that cheese, but I knew he was going to do that build again, and this was the direct counter to it on Shakura. So sometimes you've just got to have the presence of mind and know when to cheese.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of that was that was also, I mean, it's not like everybody knew that was the counter to the build. Like, White Raw made that. That's what made it so special. He was using that, you know, for the first time, and it worked flawlessly. He had all the timings down really well, and that's almost something you would expect, like, you know, oh, it's a build order loss. This build loses to this build. But nobody had ever seen the counter to that before, and nobody had ever seen it executed like that, and that's really what I love about White Raw. He's a very original, creative player, and he can just execute builds like that, and it looks like he's done it, you know, 100 times before. And when you're doing it against a player like MC, that just makes it that much more amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And congratulations to him as well. Got picked up and sponsored by TT Esports as well today. So yeah, congratulations to him. So Hash, on the other hand, he had his gas stolen, but it looks like he's going to be okay with opening with a 2 barrack strategy here for a little while. Probably expand behind that and eventually take down that assimilator when he decides to tech up here in a bit. Cruncher, on the other hand, has stayed on that 1 gas here for a little while. He did invest a few minerals into putting this one up over here, but it looks like he is set up for a little more overt gateway pressure, potentially a gateway expand here.
Well, I mean, he's obviously going to expand behind it. That's really all you can do once your gas is stolen. It forces you down that tech path. And I like the second racks as a response. That's another avenue you're almost forced to take by the gas steal, and that's why the gas steal is so effective. It's really underused by a lot of players, but I think it's worth it. If you have your probe in the base and you do have an opportunity to steal that gas, you might as well do it every time. It's so effective, and you also get that scouting information. You know, should he kill the gas with a Marauder, or should he kill it with a few Marines? You know which units are coming out of the racks. At first, you know he's not rushing for a Reaper right away. I mean, you can get a lot of intel from it, and it forces the Terran down a check tree that you're comfortable with. And we do see 3-gate expo, and that's very common on this map. Almost every Protoss player is going to be using that, and he'll probably apply some pressure at the same time as he is taking his expansion, depending on how many sentries we see here. Probably going to start getting sentries now. He does have 2 Stalkers and a Zealot out right now. Looks like he's waiting for that early pressure to come in from Hash, but there is no early pressure just yet. It looks like he's rallying everything to the Zelnaga, and now he's probably going to head in and do a little bit of poke action with these 3 Marauders and a Marine. And I think that Cruncher is going to be more than ready to deal with this. He's going to have those 3 Stalkers and a Zealot, and I think that's enough to hold this off, pending on how long it takes those reinforcements for Hash to get there.
And Warp Gate technology just finishing, so he'll be able to warp in another round of units anyway. Looks like Hash does actually scan the top, sees the 3-gate build, sees the Warp Gates coming in right now, and not even going to test the waters right now, just going to go ahead and back himself off for the time being, as we do see a few more Stalkers being warped in. That is actually quite a few Stalkers there out of Cruncher. He's going to have a pretty good ability to do a little bit of harassment, or try and at least stop this command center from coming down as flawlessly as Hash would like here in a bit. Looks like Hash actually dropping down a factory in addition to a third Rax as well, finally bringing his Marauders back to deal with that assimilator that is going down at the moment. And wow, actually establishing a bunker inside of his base, so he expects some sort of imminent pressure here out of Cruncher.
And Cruncher is going to go ahead and do that 3-gate pressure while expanding. He does have that Nexus going down right now. Interestingly enough, no sentries out of Cruncher just yet. Going with a really heavy Stalker Zealot combination right now, and I don't know if I'm 100% okay with that. You do want to get those sentries out relatively early on and start building up that energy, but he does have this offensive proxied pylon on the low ground. Hash probably not going to be able to find that, and he will be able to continually reinforce, but one thing that he does not have is those key force fields. It's going to be very difficult for him to either contain Hash or to break the top side of the ramp. He's not going to be able to force field the back of that bunker. He's not going to be able to prevent SCVs from repairing, but he does have a ton of units, so he might be able to just brute force his way up there and do a ton of damage. Maybe waiting. It looks like he is actually waiting for Hash to make a move to the natural, and that would be the opportune time for him to go in. He does have that Stalker in position, so he's going to know exactly when those troops do come down to the natural.
And here comes Hash now with all of the Marauders, and Cruncher's going to have to watch out. Looks like that this Stalker's just going to be sacrificed for scouting information, and that's going to cue in Cruncher to start moving up. He only has one sentry, but of course that hasn't accumulated all that much energy, so that's going to be able to drop down one force field, possibly to stop reinforcements or something like that in a bit, but not going to have all the energy that he wants at this point. Hash now going to drop over his orbital command to the 12 o'clock position. He's also moving up with a bunch of bio units, and this may be the opportunity for Cruncher that he wanted. Looks like a bunch more Zealots are being warped in at this time, so Cruncher, he's got to position those Zealots to the front, though. Doesn't want to engage with his Stalkers. There he goes, moving up with the Zealots now. And is Hash prepared for this? No, looks like Hash is actually just going to run back for the time being. There we go. There's the stim. It comes down. Here comes Cruncher. Cruncher's going to make his way in, do quite a bit of damage to these bio units. What a nice chop by Hash, actually, to push all of these Zealots into its choke point there. Those Zealots, they have buffered a little bit of damage, but they haven't done a lot of damage themselves. Looks like the first set of Marauders were going down at first, but it looks like Hash is going to have enough to drive back this army.
Yeah, it was very well done right there. Very nice micro by Hash, spreading out his Marines and Marauders and kiting back into the mineral line, and then using the minerals actually as a wall to prevent those Zealots from doing maximum damage and prevent them from getting in there right up in the front. How many gateways do we have going down right now? Okay, we have 7 gateways on the way right now for Cruncher. So transitioning from that really aggressive push, and Hash actually finding that pylon right there. Very well done. Takes out that proxy pylon, and that could have been a nuisance coming later on into this game. He could have sent Zealots back into the natural should Hash have decided to move out. Hash now adding Medivacs into the mix. I really like this. Getting his +1 going. Combat shields on the way now. And Cruncher, once again, this goes back to what I said earlier, not building up any of those sentries, and he really just has a purely Stalker Zealot army, and Hash moving in right now, going to go ahead and pick off these first few Zealots, doing a great job kiting. Loses that Medivac, though. Might lose another Medivac, and it looks like he might kill Cruncher's entire army right here at the Xalnaga Tower. Cruncher warping in some timely reinforcements with those 7 gateways. Maybe going to be able to hold this off, but at what cost? He has taken so much damage, and he has virtually no army right now. Hash, I feel like, has a pretty commanding lead at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Both players are relatively even in economy at the moment, so Cruncher with those 7 gates will be able to build up enough forces to hold off a subsequent push of relatively low tech units, but once Hash is able to get those upgrades really going, that's going to put Cruncher in a very bad position. It looks like Hash is just going to take down these destructible rocks as well. Currently, we're looking at a 14 supply advantage for Hash at the moment. He is looking at 9 Marauders, 7 Marines, and a Medevac against just 5 Stalkers and 5 Zealots. So Cruncher certainly has to play a little bit of catch up here. But, just to be able to defend subsequent attacks out of Hash, he is pretty much going to commit himself to this really strong gateway play. Not really going to be able to transition to Robo or Stargate. Just going to have to go for some upgrades.
Well, if you think about it, though, Hash is actually on higher tech than he is. I mean, he teched up to the starport very quickly. So, and he's going up against almost pure gateway units right now. There's no Robo Robo down. He just finished his Twilight, and it looks like Hash is going to move in here with these medevacs. I don't know that he has enough units to flat out end the game right here, but there is no charge, and he does have those medevacs, so once these Zealots go down, he is going to be able to make mincemeat of these Stalkers. Stalkers wisely running back. Reinforcement Zealots coming in right now. Charge is on the way, but it is not going to be done anywhere close to in time for him to deal with this. I love that Cruncher is picking off those medevacs, though. He's doing such a great job of that. I think that's the 4th or 5th medevac that he's picked off so far, and that's just so important. If Hash had been keeping all those medevacs alive, he'd be up to, you know, 6 or 7 right now. So Cruncher doing a great job reducing that medevac count, and the medevacs are really the key unit right now that Hash has working for him. He teched up so fast to starport, and those medevacs are just really making all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and those medevacs, of course, accumulate energy over time. It's just way too hard of a goal for one medevac to be able to heal up all of these units here out of Hash. So he's going to be able to make attacks, but not as frequent as he would like. He would have the opportunity to do a little bit more overt harassment and things like that if he had a greater medevac force. Taking a look, though, it does look like we have a Templar Archives coming down. Need to find that here. There it is, behind the natural. So Templar Archives coming down. Looks like Cruncher going to make his way to the Xel'Naga Tower. He is not letting off the pressure whatsoever. Cruncher, though, he is putting down a Nexus down at the bottom right. However, Hash has already established his gold, and consequently his economy is way better than Cruncher's at the moment.
Yeah, he's just absolutely exploding right now. He's got 3 mules down on the gold, continuing to macro up. He's added more Raxes at his natural. I think he's up to 6 now, pumping off those 6 Raxes. He does have double engineering bays with upgrades coming, and he is adding a Ghost Academy right now, albeit a little bit late. I think he will be able to get Mobius Reactor, and he'll start getting Ghosts out in a timely fashion. And wow, going in on the 3rd right now, Hash taking out a bunch of Zealots right here, and I think Hash might just have enough to at least force a cancel on this 3rd at the very minimum, maybe just end the game. There are 3 High Templar out for Cruncher, but obviously Storm is only 50% done, and I don't even think they have the energy for Storms right now.
No.
They will by the time it's finished, but actually they're relatively close, just 1 energy away. But obviously upgrade not finished yet, so he's gonna have to wait on that. He does have Zealot Charge, however, and Armor 2 is about to finish, so Cruncher's army is starting to get to the point where, you know, it might be strong enough to actually do something, but he is a base down, and keep in mind that single base that he's down by, well, Hash, obviously, he's got the gold, so he's maybe 1.5 bases down if you really think about it.
Absolutely. And, you know, Cruncher, though, like you said, I mean, he's really, really counting on the fact that he can basically destroy Hash's army all at once and then inflict some economic damage, but he certainly has his work cut out for him. He is down by almost 50 supply at this point. Still, that 3rd Nexus not coming up, and I imagine that Hash is just going to try and walk back down there and deny that once again. That's going to prevent Cruncher from doing any sort of reinforcements. He does scan, sees that there are a bunch of charge lots that are out, but you know, wow, actually just all armor upgrades up to this point, so they are going to be really, really resilient, but there are no sentries in place, so no sort of Guardian Shield is going to be able to assist this whatsoever. He does have enough Templars to throw down a bunch of Storms, so Hash is really going to have to be careful with the positioning of his army, but he does have the brute force ability to crack through all of these. Looks like he's going to put up, no, I'm sorry, he was just scouting over here to the 9 o'clock position, and he is actually putting down another 4 barracks somewhere. There they are, inside of his main, so playing a very strong macro game as well.
Well, he has so many Marauders right now. He's going to be able to tank quite a few Storms. Obviously, he's not going to be able to tank all of those Storms, but and we do have 3 Ghosts on the way right now, and these are, he also has a few Ghosts out near his Planetary Fortress, and that is going to make all the difference in the world. Mobius Reactor is done. He has Cloak on the way for his Ghosts, and if he saves up enough energy for a few real clutch EMPs here, that's just going to change this battle so dramatically. And now heading into the 3rd, Hash is on his way. Cruncher is responding, but I don't know if Cruncher has enough to deal with this. If he gets those EMPs off, it might make a very big difference in this battle. No EMPs going down, Storms going off on everything, but the question is does Cruncher have enough remaining other than these Templar to finish off this army?
No, not really, but man, I gotta admit, Hash is just kind of standing underneath those Storms for a while. He still has just a sheer amount of units, and he's going to be able to push through this, but he is really overstimmed at the moment. These Storms are going to be able to
Nexus!
actually do a ton of damage. The Nexus does fall. So Cruncher does lose his third base once again. Hash is going to be content with that gain. Run back away. He now has double the supply of his opponent.
If there was any hope right there, it would have been to keep that third alive. I mean, that is what he was fighting for there. That's it. That is what he was sacrificing all those units for, and ultimately losing that objective. Man, very timely snipe by Hash right there. We have another planetary fortress going up at the third right here. Has a supply depot up on the high ground just to spot, just in case any stalkers head back there and try and harass. He's also getting a turret up there. Not sure why. Maybe to prevent observers. Perhaps War Prism. Not sure exactly what that's for. It's not like DTs can attack down from the high ground, but... Anyway, Hash heading to the southern Zelnaga Tower right now with a very healthy unit mix. He's got Medivacs, Marauders, no Marines at this point, so he's completely given up on Marine production. I can't help but agree with this. There are so many High Templar out on the field. The EMP's going off on a bunch of these High Templar, getting almost... Oh, no, there's still 4 in the back that do have Storm, but Cruncher's army really... not going to be able to deal with all of these Marauders. There's just a few Zealots and 2 Stalkers. A ragtag handful of Gateway units now being reinforced by those Gateways that Cruncher has. What is he up to now? 8? We've got 7 in the main.
2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and Robo, so 9 gateways.
So still no Colossus tech coming from Cruncher, and that's very interesting. A small little group headed to harass the goal. I don't know why Cruncher isn't attacking these units right here. He's heading back over to the left to try and deal with this main army here. Storm's going down on the Marauders, doing a great job dancing those Marauders around. Actually eating a Storm right there, eating another Storm. And wow, these Storms are just doing so much damage. It's really the only thing keeping him in the game right now, but I don't think he is going to be able to finish off this army. And GG is called. Cruncher goes down in the first game. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a very well played game there from beginning to end out of Hash. I mean, right at the beginning of the game, he denied all the technology out of Cruncher. Cruncher was never able to move off of any sort of explicit warp gate technology, which would have been fine under some circumstances, but he never really had the ability to deal with Medivacs. He never really had the Colossus tech to deal with the large ground force. So very, very well played there out of Hash.
Yeah, absolutely. Cruncher able to hold on for quite some time, though, using Storm to great effect. Even though there were ghosts out on the field, keeping his Templar all spread out, made them work for a while, but just didn't have the backbone of strength that was necessary to really utilize those High Templar. He never had enough Zealots, never had enough Stalkers to kill the remainder of those weak units. So Hash was able to keep them alive and eventually heal them up with those Medivacs.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the grand scheme of things, Hash wasn't really producing off of that many racks. I think he had 10 there at the end.
That's quite a few.
Yeah, that's quite a few. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, he only had 1 starport. He wasn't producing off his factory. He was doing limited upgrades, mostly out of the Ghost Academy there at the end. Looks like he was set up for some sort of new production if the game would have gone any longer than that. But Hash, very well played game. We're going to head into game number 2, guys, here to this IPL Season 2 qualifier number 3 match, so don't go anywhere.